That was fabulous. I'm testifying to love today. How about you? How about you? Woo! That's right. Boy, we are testifying to love, aren't we? We're just embracing this new month, the preciousness that comes at the beginning of August as we've kind of gotten comfy with summer and the whole thing that summer brings about to us. And now we're starting to feel the stirrings, a little bit of fall showing up, starting to look at that school calendar, knowing it's getting ready to start, believe it or not. And then we're hanging on to those last few days and precious moments of summer and all of the beautiful juiciness and summer nights and the play that it brings for us. And I know that you've been enjoying the slides that have played before the service started and during our We Are Family song and during the last song. Those are slides, pictures that I had taken at our teen summer camp this year that Raina and I just, I don't know, a week and a half ago, I don't remember now, it's all a blur, just came back from with our teens that we took to teen summer camp this year. So I hope you enjoyed the pictures. I think they were phenomenal. And we have so much to share with you next Sunday. As Maureen had mentioned to you, it's going to be fabulous. I mean, our Sunday service in the park is always fabulous, but the teens are doing it this year, and they really want to bring camp back in a big way. So they've got a lot of special surprises for us. I'm looking forward to that. So today's message is all about love, compassion, and fireflies in action. And the beautiful song that was sung right before the talk kind of gets us ready to be poised for that feeling of love in action. But I'm going to ask you a question. When I mention love in action and compassion in action, I want you to just go within and feel what is that for you personally? Love in action, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like to you when you're being love in action? When you are being compassion in action? Just think about that for a minute. Bring it into your essence. Because we're going to kind of weave a web, a tapestry this morning all around that action and what it takes and where we are with it in life. So I'm going to start with our first slide here. As you know, I always like to start out with a little something funny, but I'm also going to make a point. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and lightning bug, says Mark Twain. And boy, is that true, right? I can testify to that. Sometimes my words and my feelings don't come out the way I mean them to. And it's generally when I am not feeling connected to the source of my love. It's generally when I'm not connected to the source and the truth of who I am. And then I kind of feel all jumbled up inside and things don't come out quite the way I intend or I mean to. And then usually I need to apologize or seek forgiveness for myself and others. So there is a big difference between the right word. You have lightning and then you have lightning bugs. So we're going to go to the next slide to represent that. Here we go. The doctor says he's cured. I'm pretty sure the loved one there isn't quite happy with that type of curing, as you can see. But boy, isn't that a good representation of the difference of our perceptions and our meanings. Being cured could mean so many different things, can't it? And it doesn't necessarily mean that we are showing up and being in the expression that we desire to be in, does it? So there's a difference there. The difference between lightning and lightning bug, the difference between announcing something is cured or not, where do you think that real truth lies? How do you know the truth of your being? How do you know that? How do you know the right words? What needs to take place for that to come through and express itself in every area and extension and place in your life? Where does that come from? And wouldn't that mean that we need to derive some type of clarity? Clarity in what we believe, or clarity in the truth of our being, or clarity in how we want to show up and express and be expressed by ourselves and others? You know, the topic for today is love and compassion in action. And the beginning write-up starts with a deep realization of our oneness with all life naturally awakens compassion in mind and heart. This compassion becomes cause to a vibrant manifestation of new ideas and actions that lift our own consciousness, and when offered to the world, lifts the consciousness of all. So it really comes down to realizing at a deep level our oneness with life itself. And through that realization, we are able to be, become, and express compassion. And in this expression of compassion, there's this vibrant manifestation of new ideas that take place. You know, that light bulb that goes off within our heart and our mind and our soul. That which we get to then enact in our life and feel even more fully alive and empowered and inspired. You guys following me? Have you been there before? You know what I'm talking about? Yes. Yeah, let's testify to that this morning. And then when all of that happens, don't we all feel like our consciousness gets lifted up, like literally lifted up? And don't we feel like even the world around us is lifted up? Yeah, in some way, absolutely. So Ernest Holmes says this, and I love it. Realizing that I am one with all people, I affirm that there is a silent power flowing through me and them, which blesses and heals and prospers and makes happy and glad their pathway. That's, to me, what happens when we step into that incredible expression of love and compassion in action. Yet, how do we do that? What is that magical potion? What is that thing that takes place and comes over us and overcomes us that allows us to have that oneness and that truth of the being so that we can express that love and compassion? What does that take? I know for me that it takes me being aware, first of all, that I'm alive, and it takes me being aware to say, yes, I desire to be expanded. I cannot live in my own little box of my own little creation of every day without feeling like I'm going to expand. That's one of the reasons why it's such a joy to me to go to teen summer camp every summer. Some people I know are like, you want to go to the top of a mountain and camp with hundreds of teenagers for 8 days? And they look at me like there's something wrong with that. I don't get it. But what happens is, folks, there is no label on where wisdom comes from. There's no age in which wisdom starts to kick in. And there's certainly no time where we're more connected to spirit than not. And I have discovered that hanging out with teenagers really allows me to become even more connected to spirit than I ever knew before. Can I get an amen from the teens in the back there? Woo, it's true. So life is not just something to be endured, Ernest Holmes says. It is to be lived in joy, in a fullness without limit. You hang out with hundreds of teenagers for 8 days, you know no limits, let me tell you. He also goes on to say, we must get rid of old, morbid, theological concepts. I place no value on anything unless it brings gladness, love, friendship, the ability to laugh, and makes me feel that every person I meet, I would love. They are as good as I am, having the same heart pattern, the same kind of bloodstream, and the same divinity. Ernest Holmes said that. I love that quote. That to me is how we enter into that experience of deeper realization of the oneness of who we are so that we can show up in life as that love and compassion in action. Yet there's so much going on with that. There's so much that takes place that guides us on that very deep journey. So here I'm going to share with you a little bit about that. We know there are no coincidences, right? Can I get an agreement from most of you in this room that there are no coincidences? So everything has a purpose. The challenge, or the opportunity, I like to say, is to uncover that deeper meaning when hidden by our own judgments and opinions. Every moment is a gateway to awareness. When we cling to one position, making something else wrong, or resist a challenge out of fear, we lose sight of this opening. The beginning and end to a circle are shared. Both are necessary to complete the circle, to complete the loop. Likewise, when we attach to a standpoint, the circle collapses. Life is seen linearly. By appreciating the many views and accepting what life is offering in the moment, we enter the circle, not with resignation, but with profound congruence. We understand what is ours to do and to be individually, as well as part of the collective whole. So whatever is in front of you now is the means to transcendence. Whatever is in front of us right now is the means to love in action, to compassion in action, to that deeper sense and feeling of oneness. It's all on purpose. And so what better way? Let me just check my slide real quick before I go on. Oh, and this is so cool. Let me show you, it's my slide 4, the one with the poem, where the robot wrote the poem. We'll get to that in a minute. So here's the robot talking to another robot. I wrote a poem for you. Thanks. And then you see the poem. This is beautiful. So here's another example. I know that y'all know what I mean when I say there are ways of expressing ourselves that comes from the heart. Yes. And that can be felt. And that, to me, is true, authentic expression. It doesn't matter what's written down, obviously, on the paper. It doesn't matter. What matters is how it's perceived. And generally, things are perceived because there's energy behind it, because there's energy behind everything. So when we step into love and compassion in action, it's got to begin with love and compassion in action within ourselves. We can't make it up and we can't fake it, right? Because we know the difference and other people know the difference. So it's so important to be grounded in that oneness and in the truth of who we are as we step into that transcendence that is always in front of us. Are you following me? You are following me. That's good. That's awesome. So the next slide, the compassion and caring, I think is the one you put up just a second ago. So Ernest says this: compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in the unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. I think the key word here is understanding, and I'm going to share with you why I say that. Dale, I'm getting ready. So I am going to share with you, and most of you know I'm a huge lover of slam poetry. There was a beautiful piece that one of the teens did an interpretive dance to in the talent show this year at the summer camp. And that piece rocked my world. And you know what happens when something rocks my world? I want to share it with you, because I'm pretty sure it's going to rock your world too. So I'm going to share this piece of slam poetry, and I'm going to give you a little insight before I read it. It is called A Letter to the Playground Bully. And it's written by a girl named Andrea, who is age 8.5. Okay? So here we go. Maybe there are cartwheels in your mouth. Maybe your words will grow up to be gymnasts. Maybe you have been kicking people with them by accident. Let's take the volume down just a little bit. I know some people get a whole lot of rocking in the rocking chair, and the ones who don't sometimes get rocks in their voice boxes. They become slingshots, and maybe you think my heart looks like a baby squirrel. But guess what? You absolutely missed when you told the class I had head lice, because I absolutely 100% do not have head lice. And even if I do, it is a fact that head lice prefer clean heads over dirty ones, so that I am clean as a whistle or a teapot. And my mother says it's totally fine if I blow off steam, as long as I speak in an octave my kindness can still reach. My kindness knows mermaids never ever miss their legs in the water because they know there's better ways to move through the ocean than kicking. So guess what? If I ever have my own team, I'm picking everyone first. Even the worst kid and the kid that with the stutter like a skipping record, because I know all of us are scratched, even if you cannot hear it when we speak. My mother says most people have heartbeats that are knocking on doors that will never ever open, and I know my heart is a broken freezer chest. That's why I can never keep anything frozen. So no, I am not always crying. I'm just thawing outside of the lines. And even if I am always crying, it is a fact that salt is the only reason everything floats so good in the Dead Sea. And just because no one ever passes notes to me doesn't mean I'm not super duper. In fact, my super duper might be a buoy or a paper boat the next time your nose is stuck up the river. Because it is a fact that our hearts stop for a millisecond every time we sneeze, and some people's houses have too much dust. Some people's fathers are like addicts. I've heard addicts have monsters in their walls and shaky stairs, and if I lived in a house with an addict, I think I might have nightmares or a burglar in my safety chest, and maybe I'd look for the rest of the sticks and stones, because my mother said a person can only swallow so much punch before he's drunk on his own fist. But the only drunk I ever saw or knew was sleeping in the alley behind our church, and Jesus turned water into wine, so even God has his bad days. But on your bad days, couldn't you just say, I'm having a bad day, instead of telling me I'm stupid or poor or I dress like a boy? Because you know what? Maybe I am a boy and a girl, and maybe my name is Andrea Andrew. So what? It is a fact that bumblebees have hair on their eyeballs, and people should also comb through everything they see. Like an anchorman is not a sailor, like the clouds might be a pillow fight, like my mother says, every bird perched on a telephone wire decides the direction of his flight by the conversations running through its feet. So I know everything I speak can make hurricanes in other people's weather vanes or shine their shiny shine. So maybe sometime somebody could sit beside me on the bus and I could say, guess what? It's a fact that manatees have vocal cords even though they don't have ears, and Beethoven played music even when he could no longer hear. And I know every belt that has hit someone's back is still a belt that was built to hold something up. And it is a fact that Egyptians slept on pillows made of stone, but it's not hard for me to dream that maybe one day you'll write me back like the day I wrote the lightning bug to say, I smashed my mason jar and threw away the lid because I didn't want to take a chance that I would grow up to create a war. I want to be a belly dancer or an accordion or a pogo stick or the fingerprints that the mason leaves in the mortar between the bricks to prove that he was here, that he built a roof over someone's head to keep the storm from their faith. My mother says that's why we were all born, and I think she's right. So write back soon. Sincerely yours. Yeah. Thank you. That applause goes to Andrea, age 8.5. Symbolism, folks, understanding. For if we could truly understand people from the soul level of knowing for a fact that you are truly greeting and meeting God, Spirit, in every circumstance, that transcendence is right before us every moment. That bully on the bus would no longer exist, and that bully inside would no longer exist. And speaking of symbolisms, you might be wondering why I selected love, compassion, and fireflies in action. Well, let me tell you. Fireflies have kind of been a big part for me in the last week and a half. Here is the symbolism of fireflies. Fireflies symbolize your inner awareness, your inner guiding light. They are mysterious and magical. They're all about illumination, teaching that the light within is the power of life. Andrea was full of fireflies. Wouldn't you agree? And as fireflies dances melodically throughout the night to their own music. They are speaking to ignite the passion of your inner fire. So the symbolism of Firefly is to spread your wings and fly, illuminated from within your own heart space, that this is the meaning that Firefly wants us to remember. So to seek the lessons and spiritual meaning of Firefly when you are seeking the freedom of spirit is when you want to let your heart lead the way and to shine for all others to see. You see, that's how we shine, is when we are love and compassion in action. That's how we shine, when we take the time to understand the transcendence that is before us right here and now, and to recognize and realize that connection and oneness with ourselves and others in the divine. That's when we shine, and that's when people feel it. And then there's this uplifting that happens within our very souls and within the world around us and the people around us. Do you see why that's so important? Do you see why that's so important? Yes, great. That's so important. And I'll share with you why. Just last week, one of our teens, who I've known for years through summer camps, has now gone on to become a young adult. And she wrote this on Facebook just last week. Her name's Camille. I must be on the line of some massive breakthrough healing, because all of a sudden, all my stuff is getting dragged up. Like I'm making transformative choices that in my case literally shock the body. Some reptilian part of my brain is digging in for dear life right now because it only ever wants to protect me. And I have believed untrue things about myself for so long, I knew them in my very bones and muscles. And I am transcending beyond my own emotional, mental, and physical imagination. Right? Dang, that's good. That's why I believe in these camps, folks. That's why I believe in these teens. That's why I believe in Camille. Because did you see what Camille just summarized for all of us? You know, there's that thing that we believe within ourselves too, to the, what did she say? To the very, what part of my body here? To the very bones and muscles of my body. False things that she has believed to the very bones and muscles of her body that she knew is no longer the truth of her. And it's coming up in front of her to transcend that right now so that she can be the firefly and shine the light and allow that inspiration to make a difference in the world. After summer camp, Tony and I left the next day for Chapala, Mexico, because the CSL Conference of the Americas was held in Chapala, Mexico this summer, and I went out to help panel and do some paneling, and then to attend the conference. And on that resort space, it's right on Lake Chapala, there's a hot springs, so they had a big round, and I thought that was just perfect. Big round, I mean that sucker could probably hold 100 people standing, it was huge. Big round thermal pool, and nobody was ever in it at night. We were like the only two ever there at night. Major bonus. So I remembered one night we're in this, and the conference was amazing. You know, it was such a heartfelt, personal, amazing conference that reminded me of our old Asilomar days when we shared every meal together with all of the attendees, and the workshop presenters were top notch, and we just really transcended and worked on our stuff and worked on those false beliefs that sometimes get embedded in our muscles. And in doing that one night, Tony and I were soaking in the thermal pool, and he was sharing with me a little bit about a challenge that he was experiencing, and was just being really heartfelt about it. And we were just holding the space and allowing that sharing to take place. And I was just, and this is not meant to be cliche, it really isn't, but I was so guided. My intuition just so guided me when he was done. I said, let's do a game, let's do a game. And let's just take turns naming things that we are so grateful for. And let's just go back and forth and back and forth. And we had a wonderful time, and the energy was so uplifted. And then out of nowhere, actually out of what is known on the grounds as an over 500-year-old tree, it was beautiful, beyond beautiful, came this flashing light. And it's been years, folks, since I've seen a lightning bug. And this flashing light came out of this tree, and came up over to the thermal pool, and it was a lightning bug all by itself. And it was amazing, and it was gorgeous, and I felt my whole soul just open up to that illumination, to that feeling of symbology that that lightning bug stood for, and then it was gone. And that was kind of near the beginning of the conference, and we soaked in that pool almost every night, and so I kept a lookout for that lightning bug and any of its friends, because I grew up in Kentucky, and we had lightning bugs all the time, and I really miss them. So I kept a lookout for that lightning bug and the friends and didn't see it again until the last night. And then the very last night, I was doing my prayer work in the pool, just feeling so incredibly opened and full and grounded. And right before we were getting ready to leave, it showed up right in front of my face, almost scared me, but it was like right here. And it flashed a couple of times, and then it went up into the tree, and I'm telling Tony, lightning bugs up in the tree. And it flashed a couple of more times, and that was it. So love, compassion, and lightning bugs in action, or fireflies. You know, you can say firefly, you can say lightning bug. But that's really what it's all about, folks, isn't it? As we kick off our theme for August, being love, being compassion, being understanding. The understanding that Andrea wrote about in her poem. That is what I know and have the faith of God in knowing that it is in front of me and it is a part of me at all times. And so I invite all of us to go within and to truly know that. Let's do our Rumiism for the day as I close. My slide 9 is Rumi. So here's our Rumiism for the day. For those that are new today, Rumi is our 10-year-old dog, our Finnish Spitz, and he is a wise old soul. So every Sunday I share a Rumiism. And here's today's Rumiism. Love is the religion and the universe is the book. My life is the book. What is before me is the book. So let's go to the last slide because I have our affirmation for the month for us to speak out loud together. I think it's the last slide. It's the one with all the words on it. Here we go. Are you all willing to say this together? Today, I celebrate my oneness with all of life. I bring compassion into action in this day, and love becomes my way. And so it is, and so you are.